This has been a long time coming. A proper KTM adventure motorcycle. We loved this bike in Goa and now we finally have it. And hence, we had to put it through the Acko Drive 500 kilometers endurance test cycle. Does it fare just as well overall? No point in traffic around. Let's hit the road. Let's get the most crucial number out of the way. Kitna deti hai? And the results are on your screen right now. Now the test is conducted by me. I weigh around 100 kilos and the numbers that you see on your screen are possibly the worst case scenarios because we ride the bike where it feels the most natural and a little spiritedly. So out of the highway, this bike is sitting at around 110, 120 kmph, in the city anywhere between 55 and 65 kilometers per hour, and in the twisties, it's really gung-ho. No fuel saving or conservative riding around here. And in that sense, coupled with the 14.5 litre fuel tank, you can expect to go around 370 to 380 kilometers on a tank full, which is great. Mind you, these are still the worst case scenario numbers. So expect in the real world, if you ride it very neatly and sanely, you can expect anywhere between say 28 and 30 kilometers to the litre. But after all, this is a KTM and it's meant to be ridden spiritedly. Now this is not the first time that we are sampling the lovely new 399cc motor. We fell in love with it on the new 390 Duke, the third generation, which went on to win the 2024 Acko Drive Bike of the Year. And I also went ahead and bought that motorcycle. So from the Duke to the Adventure, there is no change in the output or say the engine internals as well. But there is a difference in the way this engine is now putting down its power on the Adventure. Now starting with, you get the same 3 riding modes and rain continues to be the softest riding mode. So throttle maps are very calm and linear in this mode. There is max intervention when it comes to the traction control as well as the ABS settings. And overall, this bike sort of feels very sedate and calm in rain mode. It sort of feels like a 250 Adventure and not a 390 Adventure. When you get to street and off-road, that's where the fun really starts. Now in street and off-road mode is where you get the entirety of the 45 horses, but the way the throttle is tuned is noticeably different in both of these modes. So in street mode, it's very subtle, linear and progressive, which is great for stress-free, fast touring, while the off-road mode is the most responsive and the livelier of the two. Yes, KTMs are all about ready to race, and this is an off-road capable motorcycle. So the engineers thought fit to give the most responsive engine tune in off-road mode only. And even though this bike has a larger rear sprocket with 3 teeth more, it still doesn't feel quite as brappy or KTM-like as the 390 Duke. It still feels fast but controllable, quick but composed. So the bike felt the best in off-road mode and hence I stuck to it for the entirety of the run. 100 kmph is no fuss for the engine. 120 kmph, easily doable. Want to speed up a bit more to get past traffic? No problemo. The performance tapers off after 140 kmph, but who cares? And if you're out touring and have open roads, switch on the cruise control and set it to your desired speed and calmly enjoy the ride. Now it's not all fun and games when it comes to the motor because the vibration levels on offer are fairly inconsistent from unit to unit. Now firstly, when we rode this bike in Goa, it was fairly smooth, fairly nice and easygoing. Whereas over here in Pune, we got 2 units of the bike so far. Now the first one was pretty buzzy right from the moment you set off up until say 6000 RPM, and post that it was very sedate. To the point that when we are out testing, the grab handle, the Pillion grab handle on one of the sides came loose and fell off on the run. I'll put the photo and video in the overlay over here for that. And then we got this bike. Now this bike is fairly smooth until say 5000 rpm. Between 5 and 6000 rpm is where it feels the buzziest, and after that it again sort of dies down. Now mind you, the vibes are not a deal breaker. They are nowhere as harsh as they were on the first gen 390 Duke with the 373cc motor. But having experienced this same engine on the 390 Duke, which is far more refined, far more controlled and poised, we expect the same refinement levels to have carried on to the adventure as well. And this same sort of story we sort of corroborated with few of our media friends as well, because some of them reported that their bikes were fairly smooth, while some, even after riding for 500-600 kilometers, said that the harshness of the vibes didn't die down. Now, this is something that you will have to keep an eye out for when you go out and take a test ride of this motorcycle and at the time of delivery as well. And hence, Bajaj and KTM really need to step up their game when it comes to being consistent, at least in the refinement levels on offer.
Thanks to the revised shorter gearing, the Adventure feels a lot more tractable and easy to use in the city. Slotted into 3rd or 4th gear, and it can ride away smoothly from speeds as low as 35 kmph. There's also the crawl functionality that has been introduced here, which increases the engine revs just a bit so that you don't stall the engine or need to slip the clutch constantly. The clutch action is breezy and the quick shifter operates flawlessly. Perhaps the best KTM has ever provided on its India-made products so far. Now there's bound to be some level of heat that you can expect from a high-strung liquid-cooled engine such as this one. But it's not torturous, very bearable. During a city run, we rode it in peak Pune summer traffic, and besides the cooling fans coming on, the engine barely bothered us. Only when you came to a complete standstill did the temperature warning come up, but that too was for a few seconds. Hence, engine heat dissipation is brilliant and your legs will not end up getting cooked in traffic.
Now, one of the biggest compliments that one can pay the KTM engineers is that they found a way to make the new 390 Adventure far more accessible than before, and still managed to find a way to increase the ground clearance levels on offer. Now, the clever packaging that we first saw on the Duke has sort of carried forward over here as well, and that leads to a lower seat height, which is accessible for riders of all heights. And thanks to a narrower midsection, finding the footing on any sort of ground is very easy, especially for shorter riders who are daunted by the earlier 855mm seat height.
It is pretty spacious too, but the slimness could become a slight issue on long rides, especially for larger riders. Hence, the foam could have been a bit firmer, and after maybe a 200-250 km stint on the highway, it might become a bit of a sore point, but no major complaints as such.
Now, for the riders whose height is up to say 5 feet 10 inches, the foot peg position feels sort of spot on, but for anybody taller, it might feel a bit knees up. Having said that, locking the knees into the tank when you're sitting is very natural, and even transitioning from a sit down to a stand up posture is very effortless. Mind you, I would have liked if the bars were a little higher and a little closer to me, but that is an easy fix with some handlebar risers which should be available by some aftermarket accessories.
This is an absolutely brilliant screen that does the task of deflecting just enough air around the rider without causing much stuffiness. It works well for riders up to 6 feet tall, and the wind noise is dramatically low.
Now, during the first ride, we didn't have much time to say tinker around with the suspension settings, and hence stuck to the stock suspension recommended tune. And while it was great over there, it was very likable over there, we did spend some time, say over the past week and a half, to tinker around with the suspension, both the USD fork as well as the monoshock. And what I actually found is that the stock tune for my 100 kg frame worked best for an overall riding perspective. So in case if you just wanted one tune for say every sort of riding, this would be it, what they've suggested, and the recommended settings are on your screen right now. I haven't been able to tinker around with the rear preload setting it, because in order to do that, I have to open up this plastic panel section and then access it via the special tool. But having said that, this bike now feels very neutral, very calm, and it soaks in the bumps. It's very attentive and responsive to your inputs. So it doesn't feel quite as unsettling as the older bike did. Mind you, it's still not quite as sophisticated or as plush as the Himalayan, but it comes very close because the rear end still feels a little tossy when you're going over bumps at some really fast pace or over the really sharp ones. But what it is allowing you to do now is that you can chill and soak in the view, enjoy the ride, not be super diligent and focus on what is in your path ahead, like the older bike did.
A slim and responsive chassis is backed up with competent suspension and grippy tires, making the cornering experience a delight. It doesn't have the typical vagueness of a 21-inch front wheel, as it feels just as calm and confident with the beds as any KTM should. It will not be quite as sharp as a Duke, but it's still fun overall. It stops well too, harnessing the bike's performance quite adequately. ABS calibration is subtle and neat, making sure you don't experience any heart-in-mouth moments. And we don't need to elaborate much on the off-road abilities of the bike. It already impressed us on the first ride, proving to be a great companion for mucking about.
So the rider ergonomics are pretty much spot on, but I've got Arun here who's going to be talking about the Pillion experience.
Three good things about the Pillion seat. First thing, of hopping on the motorcycle, the seat height is low, so it's very accessible even for shorter rider. Second thing is the grab handle. Now it looks a bit industrial, but it actually works. You can actually grip it properly even with the gloves, so that's a nice thing. And the third thing that I really liked is the ride quality with the Pillion, because even when you're going with the Pillion on the most of the rough roads, the ride quality was up to the task. Now coming to the negatives. First thing, the seat is too narrow. So all your load is coming on the tailbone, and my butt cheeks were not at all resting on the rear seat properly. Second thing is that the distance between the rider and the Pillion is almost non-existent. We were too close for each other's comfort. So I think these are the two main takeaways in the negative. So if you want to take touring on this motorcycle, maybe say 200 kilometer, but after that, your butt will be numb.
And understand, we are two healthy riders, so maybe if you're very slim, then it's okay.
Might work out.
For us, it might not be the best solution.
Yeah.
Now the 390 Adventure comes loaded to the brim with technology that is both useful and really works brilliantly. It gets 3 riding modes with dedicated throttle maps and are very distinctively different, like we mentioned already. The traction control as well as the quick shifter work brilliantly, and the ABS intervention levels on offer are neatly done. Having cruise control on board is a boon, especially for long hours in the saddle, and activating it and using it is fairly simple. You press this dedicated cruise control button and you set the desired speed by using this rocker switch over here and let the bike do its thing. And in case if you want to slow down, just tap the brakes gently. And in case if you want to return back to the cruising speed, just press the plus button for a little while longer and it will start to accelerate. You can increase or decrease the speeds in increments of 5 kmph by long pressing either side of the rocker switch as well.
You will have to download the dedicated KTM maps on your smartphone in order to activate the turn-by-turn navigation. These maps will occupy roughly 4 GB of data on your phone and will work well for the most part. The 390 Adventure doesn't feel cheap, but the graphics and liveries don't really feel that great as well, at least according to me. But the panels are made from a special pigmented polypropylene material that is far more durable, and in the event of a tumble, the scars will have the same color as the surface and not black. Plus, the stickers are molded into the panels, so no need to worry about them peeling off too.
But these do get scratched or scuffed up pretty easily, especially if you're wearing off-road or MX boots, and if you're intending to go trail bashing, as you should on a bike like this. Furthermore, one of the Pillion grab handles, like I mentioned before, because of the vibrations, it fell off. One of the bolts, well, it ate up the threads, and attaching a new one was not quite possible. Hence we got a new test unit. And lastly, there is no dedicated tail rack over here, not even as an accessory offered by KTM themselves. So you will have to choose between a pillion and luggage for your next tour. Until that is, some accessory maker like Auto Engina, Zana or the various others make a dedicated tail rack for the bike. At 3.68 lakh rupees, the new 390 Adventure is not cheap by any means. I mean, sure, you are just paying a few thousand rupees extra over the outgoing 390 Adventure and getting a lot more capability and usability than before.
There is an X version which is around 76,500 rupees more affordable, and the X would technically make a lot more sense for majority of the buyers, as there is no compromise now like it was on the older version of the bike. This X looks the same, the features are the same, the smaller 19-inch front wheel should give it slightly better handling, the suspension travel and ergonomics are also nearly identical. It mainly misses out on traction control and cruise control. So sensibly, you would pick the X.
And when you compare this bike to the Himalayan, even if you opt for the top Harley black color and spec that bike out with tubeless spoke wheels, the price gap is still almost 60,000 rupees, which is a lot considering both of these are similar class of motorcycles. Is it justified or not? Well, we'll answer that in a separate video. But that's the value equation of the new 390 Adventure. We finally got the KTM Adventure motorcycle that we desired for ages. The previous bike is a mere shadow of what this one is. As a one bike garage, this fits the bill perfectly, as it is just as easy in city commutes as it is as fast touring. It shows just as much finesse in trail bashing as it does in the twisties. The high asking price does sting, and it would have been far more easily recommendable if the asking price was a bit more competitive. And we suggest that you hold off purchasing this motorcycle until after the monsoons, because the first lot of KTMs always have some small niggles like the inconsistent vibration issues that are persisting amongst the media units. Hence, it is better to put off purchasing until after June or July maybe. Trust me, I know firsthand with my Duke. But what this bike is now is the new segment benchmark. No other ADV comes close to offering a holistic, versatile experience, and newer as well as existing players will find it hard to match it. So what do you think about our take on the new 390 Adventure? Do let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe to our channel in case if you want us to do further 500-kilometer endurance test of any other motorcycles. Do let us know that as well in the comment section below. Follow us on our Instagram page because we bring cool short format automotive content over there as well. And before I end this video, please wear riding gear on all your rides. Stay safe on the road.